So our presentation on leadership, communication, and working in teams. Our group members are Miranda, Jack, Cole, and Ty. So we interviewed a professional named Deborah Slagle, and she's the executive director of AUSA International. And she gave us a lot of good insight about getting the right people on the bus and getting those people in the right seats. And we asked her several questions about leadership management, communication, teamwork, and we got a lot of good information from her.
So I'm Miranda Hanson, and we interviewed Deborah Slagle, like Jack said. Deborah is the executive director at AUSA International. She started with AUSA as the director of program support in 2017. Prior to working for AUSA, she's actually been in social services. She was a superintendent of a school. She actually opened a charter school down in Arizona. She also was a teacher and professor at Grand Canyon University. So she has a wide background and lots of different leadership skills and working with lots of different teams. Currently, though, she is the executive director at AUSA.
So yeah, we did ask her a bunch of questions about leadership and management and what she thought in her experience were good things, good ideas to follow. And one of the good things she talked about was being a good leader also involves being a good follower. So you, as a leader, it's good to portray that being a follower creates a better leader out of yourself. And also, she talked about surrounding yourself with smarter people than yourself, which I agree with, and I think is definitely it builds your personality and builds your leadership skills a lot more. And definitely being open-minded to all the different situations that can come up and all the variable instances that you have to deal with as a manager. Some of the statistics we've found in this case is from monster.com, and the number one soft skill is teamwork and collaboration, and that is what employers are looking for.
So my name's Cole, and one of the other main topics that we got from Deborah was communication. Being clear in your expectations and being specific is really important when you're communicating with others. This way, everyone knows when things need to be done, how they need to be done, what time they need to be done by, and it helps to eliminate confusion when you're specific with your expectations. Another is use multiple methods when communicating with your team. And the method depends on the message. One thing that Deborah talked about a lot was there are certain things that you need to make sure that you talk about in person, and other things are totally fine to be sent in a text or an email. For one example, she said that correction of any sort needs to be done face to face, whether that be over Zoom or in person. But things like correction, it requires a different method of communication than just, maybe how you would send out a memo through an email. And a third thing is making sure that one person doesn't dominate the conversation or team. And another thing that Deborah brought up about that was to encourage listening, because we know that listening is a huge part of communication. And so one thing we can do if we notice people dominating a conversation is to maybe reach out to them individually outside of the meeting setting and invite them to encourage others to share their thoughts. And that's a great way to encourage listening and to promote being inclusive. And the diagram that we see here at the bottom are the 4 C's of setting clear expectations: clarity, communication, consistency, and commitment. Clarity is the who, what, where, when, and whys. Communication, that's kind of what we talked about with Deborah, using the different methods of communication. Consistency is being consistent in expectation setting, because that will create good habits. And then commitment is reaffirming the commitments as needs change. So being aware of that.
All right, and then finally, we talked with Deborah about working in teams and how do teams work? Why is it good to work in teams? What does that look like? One of the things that she talked about as a benefit to working in teams is that your team may have more expertise between everyone. So if you work solely by yourself, you'll know a lot of things. You might be able to accomplish some things, but when you put a group of people together, they have a lot of different knowledge, a lot of backgrounds and expertise to share, and so you're going to be able to do more together. She also talked about making sure you have the right people on the team. So back to that, getting the right people on the bus and in the right seat. You want to make sure that your team's made up of the people who are going to get the job done, who are able to come up with new ideas and move forward. And at times that might mean shuffling people around to different positions, making sure they understand what their role is. But you want to make sure that the people on your team are the right people for that job. Finally, we talked about everyone needs to have a role, clear expectations and deadlines. Being really clear about your job on the team is key. When everybody knows what their job is and when they're supposed to do something, then it's going to actually get done. Sometimes if you're not sure about what your job is, it might take more time to get things done, or people will feel like they're not as important on the team. So when you put a team together, be really clear about who does what and when things need to be done. And we found some really interesting stats too that talked a little bit about teamwork. And 33% of employees say the ability to collaborate makes them more loyal. Connected teams demonstrate a 21% increase in profitability over their less connected counterparts. And finally, teams that rank in the top 20% for connectedness see 41% less absenteeism, 59% less employee turnover, and a 69% in employee wellness. So that's a huge increase when you're working in teams and connected together. It makes a big difference for the company.
And in conclusion, these are some of the main takeaways that we got from Deborah and from our presentation here. First being to know your team, what they need, involving everyone in your team, making sure that everyone feels like they're a part of it and that they have ownership. They're going to care a lot more when they feel that they have ownership in what's going on. Teamwork is important and will hold you accountable. Leaders need to know how to follow as well as they lead. Deborah talked in great length about this, about how important that is, because really, if you're not willing to step down into the follower position, people aren't going to know how much you care. And it's important for them to know how much you care. So you need to know how to be a good follower as well. People like direction, give specific directions and clear expectations. And finally, a leader needs to be more than just one color in personality. It's best to be a little bit of everything. And Deborah again acknowledged this and said that you need to be well-rounded and that you need to be able to approach situations with adaptability and with an open mind. And so that is what we conclude from our wonderful interview with Deborah. And then finally, these are our sources. And we just want to say thank you for listening to our presentation. And yeah,